The mind that forgets itself, a Buddhist perspective. There is something strange about being human. We can know so many things, languages, faces, the movement of stars. And yet, there is one thing we almost never know, the very thing that knows all of this. The mind. It sees everything. It hears everything. It thinks, remembers, dreams. But somehow, it almost never sees itself. Right now, as you listen to these words, something inside you is understanding them. Something is processing the sounds, turning them into meaning. But what is that something? Where is it? And why is it so hard to catch? Over 2,600 years ago, a man sat under a tree in India and asked the same question. His name was Siddhartha Gautama. The answer he found changed the course of human history. He became known as the Buddha, the one who woke up. And what he woke up from was exactly this: the deep forgetting that we all share. How did we forget ourselves? What have we lost because of it? And is there a way back? Let us begin with a simple image. Think of your eye. It can see the sky, the trees, the faces of the people you love. It can see colors, shapes, movement, light. But there is one thing your eye can never see: itself. To see your own eye, you need a mirror. Without it, your eye remains forever invisible to itself, even though it is the very source of all seeing. The mind is like this. It knows so many things. It knows your name, your memories, your plans for tomorrow. It knows what you like and what you fear. But the mind itself, the one who knows all of this, remains strangely hidden. We spend our whole lives looking outward and almost never turn around to ask, who is looking? The Buddha understood this deeply. In the Dhammapada, he begins with these words: mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. Everything we experience, every joy, every sorrow, every moment of peace or confusion, begins in the mind. And yet, this most important thing is the most forgotten. Why does this happen? Because the mind is designed to look outward. We have 6 doorways to the world: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the thinking mind itself. And all of them open outward, toward objects. The eye reaches for color. The ear reaches for sound. The tongue reaches for taste. The mind reaches for thoughts, ideas, plans. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, our attention is constantly flowing out, toward things, toward people, toward the next experience. In the Cullahatthipadapama Sutta, the Buddha describes what happens when we do not guard these doorways. On seeing a form with the eye, he grasps at any theme or details. This grasping is not just desire. It is more subtle. It is the way the mind automatically moves toward objects, attaches to them, and forgets itself in the process. We spend our whole lives chasing success, chasing love, chasing the next moment. And in all this chasing, we never once stop to ask, who is chasing? The Buddha had a word for this condition. He called it Avijjā, usually translated as ignorance. But this translation can be misleading. Avijjā does not mean stupidity. It does not mean a lack of information. Some of the most educated, successful people in the world are deeply caught in avijjā. So what is it? In the Vibhanga Sutta, the Buddha defines it: not knowing suffering, not knowing the origin of suffering, not knowing the cessation of suffering, not knowing the way leading to the cessation of suffering. This is the formal definition. But there is something even more basic underneath it. Avijjā is being so caught up in what we see, hear, and think that we never notice the seeing, the hearing, the thinking itself. We are lost in the content of experience without ever recognizing the process. We know so many things about the world, but we do not notice how knowing happens. We are alive, but we do not see what living actually is. Here is something remarkable. Over 2,400 years ago, on the other side of the world, the ancient Greeks came to a similar insight. On the Temple of Delphi, there was an inscription, gnōthi seauton, know thyself. Socrates, the great philosopher, considered this the foundation of all wisdom. He believed that all philosophy must begin with one simple recognition, that we do not know ourselves. East and West, two different cultures, two different languages, and yet the same truth. The mind forgets itself, and this forgetting is the root of all confusion, all suffering, all searching. The question is, what does this forgetting cost us? Imagine someone who has been sleepwalking for years. Their body moves, they eat, they talk, they go to work, they come home. From the outside, everything looks normal, but inside, no one is really there. The lights are on, but the house is empty. If we are honest with ourselves, this may feel closer to home than we would like to admit. We sit at the dinner table, but our mind is somewhere else, replaying a conversation from yesterday, worrying about a meeting tomorrow. We walk down the street, but we do not feel our feet touching the ground. We are with our children, but we are thinking about work. We are at work, but we are thinking about our children. The body is here, the mind is elsewhere, and the present moment, the only moment we ever actually have, slips away, unlived. Years pass like this, decades. And then one day, we look back and wonder, where did the time go? The answer is painful, but simple. The time did not go anywhere. We were the ones who were not there. This is the first price of forgetting. We miss our own lives. But there is a second price, and it goes even deeper. When the mind forgets itself, it starts to identify with things that are not itself. It looks at the body and says, "This is me." It looks at emotions and says, "This is me." It looks at thoughts, memories, opinions, and says, "This is me." The Buddha examined this very carefully. In the Anaṭtalakkhana Sutta, he guided his disciples through a simple inquiry. This is not mine. This is not I. This is not myself. He was pointing to the body, to feelings, to perceptions, to thoughts, to consciousness itself, the five aggregates that make up our experience. And he was showing that none of them are the solid, unchanging self we believe in. This might sound abstract, but it is actually very practical. Think about what happens when you get angry. In that moment, you are completely identified with the anger. You are the anger. There is no space between you and the feeling. And because there is no space, you have no choice. The anger controls you. It speaks through your mouth, moves through your body, and often does things you regret later. Or think about what happens when you feel sad, anxious, or afraid. If you believe "I am sad," then the sadness becomes your whole world. There is no part of you outside of it. You are trapped inside the feeling, like a fish that does not know it is in water. This is the second price of forgetting. We become prisoners of our own minds. The Buddha described this vividly in the Dhammapada. He abused me. He struck me. He overpowered me. He robbed me. Those who harbor such thoughts do not still their hatred. Notice what he is pointing to. It is not the event itself that creates suffering. It is the holding on, the replaying, the identification with the story of me who was wronged. And then, in the very next verse, the medicine. Those who do not harbor such thoughts still their hatred. The difference is not in what happened. The difference is in the mind that holds it. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, spent his life exploring the unconscious, the parts of our mind that operate below our awareness. He came to a striking conclusion. The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside, as fate. What does this mean? It means that the things we do not see in ourselves will control our lives. We will act them out, over and over, without knowing why. We will choose the same painful relationships, repeat the same mistakes, react to the same triggers, and we will call it bad luck, or just the way things are. But it is not fate. It is simply what happens when the mind forgets itself. We think we are choosing, but we are being chosen. We think we are deciding, but we are being pulled by craving, by aversion, by patterns we cannot see. And this will continue, the Buddha taught, until we wake up. Now we arrive at a difficult question. If the mind is the problem, if the mind is the one that forgets, that identifies, that gets lost, then how can the mind also be the solution? Is this not like a drowning person trying to pull themselves up by their own hair? This is a real paradox, and we should not dismiss it too quickly. Think about it. If you are confused, how can you use your confused mind to become clear? If you are angry, how can you use your angry mind to find peace? It seems like a closed loop, a trap with no exit. The Buddha was well aware of this. In fact, many of his disciples raised exactly this question, and his answer was surprising. He did not say, "Find something outside of yourself to save you." He did not say, "Wait for grace to descend from above." Instead, he pointed back to the mind itself, but with a crucial clarification. The mind is not one thing. In the Abhidhamma, the detailed psychological teaching of the Buddha, the mind is analyzed with extraordinary precision. And one of the most important discoveries is this: the mind is not a single solid entity. It is a stream of moments, arising and passing away with incredible speed. Each moment of mind is different from the one before. Each moment has its own quality, its own flavor, its own character. Some moments of mind are unwholesome, filled with greed, hatred, or delusion. These are the moments that cause suffering, that create confusion, that lead us astray. But other moments of mind are wholesome, filled with compassion, wisdom, clarity, and peace. These moments also arise, also pass away, also come and go in the stream. Here is the key insight. It is not the greedy mind that watches the greedy mind. It is not the angry mind that observes the angry mind. That would indeed be a closed loop. Instead, what happens is this. A moment of unwholesome mind arises. Say, anger. It lasts for a brief instant. Then it passes away. And in the next moment, a different kind of mind can arise. A moment of mindfulness, of clear seeing. This moment of mindfulness is not the anger. It is something else entirely. And from this new place, it can see clearly what just happened. The Buddha called this quality sati, usually translated as mindfulness. But sati is not just attention. It is a specific kind of attention. It is attention that is wholesome, clear, and free from greed, hatred, and delusion. When sati arises, it brings its own light. And in that light, the unwholesome states are seen for what they are. Think of it like this. When you turn on a light in a dark room, the darkness does not fight back. It does not resist. It simply disappears, because darkness is only the absence of light. In the same way, when mindfulness arises, the unwholesome states do not need to be fought or suppressed. They simply lose their power, because they can no longer operate in the dark. This does not mean that mindfulness instantly destroys all negative states. In real practice, it is more gradual than that. When mindfulness is steady, unwholesome states lose their fuel and momentum. They may still arise, but they do not take over. They do not become me. There is space around them, and in that space, there is freedom. This is the way out of the paradox. The mind can heal itself, not because a confused mind becomes clear while still being confused, but because the mind is a changing stream, and within that stream, clarity can arise. The question now becomes, how do we help that clarity arise? There is a common misunderstanding among people who study the Buddha's teaching. They read about non-self, about emptiness, about the deepest insights, and they want to jump straight there. They want to skip the basics and go directly to the top of the mountain. The highest teachings are beautiful, and they promise freedom. Who would not want that? But the Buddha did not teach this way. When he taught ordinary people, not monks, not advanced practitioners, just regular human beings, he always began with something simple: generosity, morality, kindness. He would only introduce the deeper teachings after the mind had become soft and ready, as the texts describe it. The scriptures are precious. They preserve the Buddha's words across thousands of years, and they offer a map for the journey. But a map is not the territory. At some point, you must walk the path yourself. In the 𝐂𝐴𝐻 Sutta, the Buddha spoke to a group of villagers who were confused by the many teachers passing through their town, each claiming to have the truth. He told them, "Don't go by reports, by legends, by traditions, by scripture, by logical conjecture, by inference, by analogies, by agreement through pondering views, by probability." This is not a rejection of scripture or tradition. It is an invitation to go deeper. Do not stop at belief. Take what you learn and test it in your own life. See for yourself what leads to suffering and what leads to peace. This is the first step. Learn to recognize what is wholesome and what is unwholesome in your own mind. When I act with kindness, how does my mind feel? When I act with anger, how does my mind feel? When I speak the truth, how does my mind feel? When I lie, how does my mind feel? This is not philosophy. This is direct observation, and it is available to anyone right now. The Buddha also emphasized keeping the basic precepts: not killing, not stealing, not lying, not engaging in harmful sexual conduct, not using intoxicants that cloud the mind. These may seem like simple rules, but their effect is profound. When you live without harming others, your mind becomes light. There is no guilt, no fear, no inner conflict. And from this lightness, clarity naturally begins to arise. Generosity works the same way. When you give, not because you want something in return, but simply because you can, something loosens inside. The grip of mine relaxes. You do not need to contemplate non-self. You are already practicing it in a simple, concrete way. Then, gradually, the practice of mindfulness can deepen. The Buddha taught this in the Satipatthana Sutta. And further, when walking, the monk discerns, "I am walking." This sounds almost too simple. Walking and knowing you are walking. What is so special about that? But try it. Really try it. The next time you walk across a room, see if you can be fully present for each step. Feel the foot lifting, moving, placing. Notice how difficult it is to stay with something so simple. How quickly the mind wants to wander somewhere else. This is the practice. Coming back, again and again, coming back to what is here. Washing dishes, just washing dishes. When anger arises, just knowing that anger is arising. Not analyzing it, not judging it, just knowing. Each moment of this knowing is a moment of the mind remembering itself. And here is the beautiful truth. You do not need to do this perfectly. The Buddha taught in the Dhammapada, the pot is filled with water falling drop by drop. The attentive one is filled with goodness piled up bit by bit. Drop by drop, bit by bit. Every time you pause before reacting in anger. Every time you give without expecting return. Every time you notice your breath, even for a moment. These are small things, but they accumulate. And over time, they change the shape of your mind. You do not need to awaken in this lifetime. That may sound strange, but it is actually liberating. It allows you to practice not because you are desperate for results, but because the practice itself is good, is wholesome, is a better way to live. The Buddha himself, according to the tradition, practiced for countless lifetimes before his final awakening. If even he needed that much time, why should we be hard on ourselves? The mind has never truly been lost. It has only forgotten for a while. Like the sun behind the clouds, the sun is still there. The clouds pass, as clouds do, and the light shines through. So do not rush. Do not grasp. Just live a little more carefully than yesterday. Notice a little more. React a little less. Be present, even for a moment, to the simple fact of being alive. Plant the seeds. Water them with practice, and trust that they will grow. The mind that forgets itself is also the mind that can remember. And that remembering, moment by moment, day by day, is where the path begins.